Welcome, Rabbi Isai, to a Chazara Shiur on Mishnah Ches and Sugya Lamed Vav. After learning some difficult sugyas, we had Sugya Lamed Beis, Sugya Lamed Hey. Now we have a breath of fresh air, a breeze of a sugya. Sugya Lamed Vav. We're actually going to do this entire blot back to back. I'm going to do two Chazara Shiurim right now. Mishnah Ches and Sugya Lamed Vav, and then Sugya Lamed Zayin, one after another. And it's so geschmack, and it's so it's so easy. And a lot of it we actually learned in the past. Starting with our Mishnah. We learned our Mishnah in a previous sugya. Let's go right ahead. Hamafkid, Dr. Mishnah. Hamafkid moitzetz al-chaver. One who deposits money by his friend. Tziraron, he tied them up. Vivshin la'achiv, and he swung them to behind him. Or another case, Mesaron livnoy ovit yaktanim, he gave them to his young son or daughter. Veloy v'nol b'fneim shaloi karo. And he locked the door, not properly in front of them. So he didn't lock it properly in front of his young kids. They were able to run out and take the money and lose it. Then, if anything happens, he's going to be chayiv. He's going to be chayiv. Shaloi shama kederech hashem, because he did not guard it the way how a guard is supposed to watch it. V'im shimer kederech hashem, and if he did guard it the way how shemrim are meant to guard it, then he will be potter. Then he's going to be potter. Such an easy Mishnah. Let's learn this inside. Open up our Gemaras. Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis at the top. Let's put it up on the board also, but I want you to open up your Gemara. It's better and it's very important to read the Gemara together with B'dibur, verbally, using your body, using your koiches, put in your koiches, get involved into learning. Zog the Mishnah. Hamafkid moitzetz al-chaver, one who deposits money by his friend. Tziraron, he tied them up, v'ivshil al-nachar, and he swung them to behind him. Or shemesaram, they gave them over, livnoy levite aktanim, to his young son or daughter. V'nol b'fneim, and he locked before them. Shaloi karoi, not properly. Chayiv, didn't chayiv is chayiv. Why? Shaloi shimer kederech Hashem, because he didn't guard the way how Hashem is supposed to guard. And if he guarded the way our Hashem is supposed to guard, potter, then he's potter. Rashi, once more, Rashi, tziraron, top of the page. Tziraron, he tied them up. Bisudarai, in his cloth, in his handkerchief that he would put on his back. Vivshin la'achiv, and he swung them to behind him. And that is the Mishnah. So let's move on straight to the Gemara. Sugya Lamed Vav. Here we go. Frag the Gemara. Okay, so most of the cases in the Mishnah is all right, is all good. I understand. If you gave it to your young child, or then you're chayiv, and if you guarded it properly, you're potter, then I understand. But the fact that he tied it up and he threw it behind him, why are you chayiv? What should he have done? What should he have done? And for the Gemara, Rav Yitzchak learns out of a pasuk that speaks about Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Sheni is every year, besides for every first, second, fourth, and fifth year, you take a percentage of your produce to Yerushalayim, you eat it in Yerushalayim to say thank you to Hashem. What's if it's so much? Then you exchange it for money, you sell it, you take the money to Yerushalayim, and you buy something in Yerushalayim with that money, and that's your Ma'aser Sheni. So the pasuk says over there, "Tzarta hakesef," you tie up the money, biyadecha, in your hand. Says Rabbi Yitzchak, even though that you tied up the money, still it needs to be biyadecha, it needs to be in your hand. You need to keep it in front of you. Tying it up and putting it behind you is not enough. Now, once we bring down Rabbi Yitzchak, so we bring down Rabbi Yitzchak also for a few more things, and a little bit connected to what we were talking about. Rabbi Yitzchak also said, and he also learned out of this pasuk, he said that you should always have money ready in your hand, cash ready, just in case you ever need it. You should always have money in your hand. And Rabbi Yitzchak also said another thing: la'olam, always yash l'shadam ha'isaf, a person should divide his money into three. 1/3, you should invest in property. You should buy land, because no one can steal that, no one can take that away. You're not losing it, it's not getting destroyed. Land is always there. So you should invest in property. 1/3, you should invest in business. And 1/3, you should have cash, you should have ready. Just in case a good business deal comes up, you shouldn't have to go sell things in order to get money in order to buy. You should have ready money. And now another thing Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Eina bracha, Metzuya bracha is not found. Ella, only bedavar asama min ayin, only it's something that's concealed from the eye, only something that you don't know exactly what it is, then Hashem could shine his bracha over there. And as Rashi explains, when you know exactly how much, we're going to explain also later in the Gemara, when you know exactly how much you have, then that's how much you have. If you don't know how much you have, then Hashem could send his bracha without you knowing, and it will become more, and it becomes more and more. You don't keep the cheshbon. You don't know exactly how much it is. So bracha is not found only in something that's concealed from the eyes. And so too we learned by the yeshiva Tana Dvei Rabbi Shmuel we learned by the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, Eina bracha metzuya, bracha is not found, ela b'davar she'eina ayin she'letas by, only in something that the eye does not have any control over. What does it mean it doesn't have any control over? That it can't see it. That's what it means, control. Shenemar, I missed also before. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk, Yitzav Hashem itcha, Hashem should command with you as a bracha, the bracha ba'asamecha in your warehouse. And we learn out from ba'asamecha, we learn out the word also to mean from the term samui, concealed. That when you have grain in your warehouse, let's say, and you don't know exactly how much it is, you don't know how much is in your bank account, for example, so then Hashem is able to send the bracha. And Hashem is not showing an open miracle. Hashem is just going to make it automatically go and become more than it is. Zag the Gemara continues and says, Tani Rabbanan, the Rabbanan learned, Ha'hoylech lamud grain, someone who's going to measure his grain, he should say, Yehi ratzin mafanecha Hashem alikeinu, it should be a will before you, Hashem, our God, Shatishlach bracha b'masi yadeinu, you should send a bracha in the work of our hands. His chilamud, if he started to measure, then he should say, Baruch, blessed is Hasheleach bracha, who is sending a bracha, bekrize in this pile. So he's already calculating, he's already measuring. So then he should say, he should bench Hashem for sending a bracha in what he does. What about if madat, if he already measured v'achakach berach, and then he blessed, and then he said tefillah, yiratzin, whatever? Then zog the Gemara, tefillah shav, it's a prayer in vain, because he already measured everything. So why shouldn't you daven? Because ein bracha metzuya. Bracha is not found. Loy b'davar hashakol, not in something that's weighed. V'loy b'davar hamadud, not something that's measured. V'loy b'davar hamana, and not in something that's counted. Ella, rather, b'davar hasamim min ayin, in something that's concealed from the eye. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Yitzav Hashem itcha, Hashem should command with you as a bracha is bracha ba'asamecha in your concealed areas, in what's concealed. You should always not know how much money exactly you have. Let's learn, before we go on to the next part of the Gemara, let's learn this Gemara inside. This is the first chelek of our sugya, so let's open up our Gemara back and let's learn this inside. Frag the Gemara, Bishlama, Kulhu, all is right, all the cases of the Mishnah, I understand it, it makes sense. Why is he chayev? Because he didn't guard the way how the Shemrim guarded it. Ella, but the first case, Tzraran, if he tied them up, and he swung them to behind him, what should he have done? And for the Gemara, Amar Rava said, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Kra, it says in the pasuk, you should tie up the money in your hand. Even though they are tied up, they should be in your hand. Now we bring more things that Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak said, L'olam, always, a person's money should be matzui biyadai, found in his hand, they should have it ready. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, you should tie up the money in your hand. Rabbi Yitzchak said more. L'olam, always, yashlish adam es ma'asav, a person should divide into three his money. Shlish b'karka, a third he should invest in land. Ushlish b'permaktia, and the third in business. Ushlish tachas yadoi, and a third should be under his hand. He should have ready under his hand. Now another thing that Rabbi Yitzchak says. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Ein bracha metzuya, bracha is not found. Ella b'davar hasamim min ayin, only in something that is concealed. Hasamoi, that is concealed min ayin, from the eye. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk, Yitzav Hashem itcha, Hashem should command with you as a bracha, the bracha ba'asamecha in your warehouses. And we learned from that also ba'asamecha means in your samui, in your concealed, in your hidden areas. Tana devei Rabbi Shmuel, Zok the Gemara weiter. Tana devei Rabbi Shmuel, they learned in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, they learned by Rabbi Shmuel. Ein bracha metzuya, a bracha is not found, ela b'davar, only in a thing, she'ein ha'ayin she'letus by, that an eye has no control over it, meaning that it can't see it. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Yitzav Hashem itcha, Hashem should command with you as a bracha, the bracha ba'asamecha in your concealed areas. Tana Rabbanan, Zok the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, the Rabbanan learned. Ha'hoylech lamud es grain, one who goes to measure his grain. Oimer, he should say, Yehi ratzim afanecha, Hashem alikeinu, it should be a will before you, Hashem our God. Shetishlach bracha, that he should send the bracha b'masi yadeinu, in the work of our hands. Hischi lamud, what if he started to measure? Oimer, he should say, Baruch hasheleach bracha, blessed is the one who sends a bracha b'chri hazeh, in this pile. Modad, if he measured v'achakach birach, and afterwards he blessed, he benched Hashem. At that point, it's already a tefillah in vain. Lefi, because she'ein habracha metzuya, bracha is not found, loy b'davar hashaku, not in something that's measured, not by something that's weighed, v'loy b'davar hamadud, and not by something that's measured, v'loy b'davar hamanu, and not by something that's counted. Ella, rather, b'davar has something in ayin, and something that's concealed from the eye. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Yitzav Hashem itcha, Hashem should command with you as a bracha, the bracha, ba'asamecha, in your concealed areas. Rashi. With that we conclude Chelik Aleph of our sugya. Let's learn Rashi. Top of the page, first line still. My havali lemevad, what should he have done? Harei tzrarin, he tied them up. Matzli v'yadai, it should be found in his hand. Lo yafkidenu la'acherim, you shouldn't deposit it by other people. B'makom acher, in another place. She'im tizdamin loy, that if you will have opportunity, schayra, material for business, l'schar, for a profit, Yehei mezuman lo, he should have ready money. Tachas yodei, what does it mean under his hand? What does it mean? Liyos mezuman lo, it should be ready for him, meaning it should be accessible for him. L'tzoyrech, for a need, revach, of a profit. Haba, pisaim, that comes all of a sudden. You should always have ready money just in case you need it for a good deal that comes up all of a sudden. Ein habracha, zakt Rashi. The bracha is not found only in something that's concealed. Zakt Rashi, why? Shem isbarech, because it becomes blessed. V'rabba me'elav, and it becomes more and multiplies by itself. Pushayin balaz. Ba'asamecha, what does it mean ba'asamecha? In your warehouse, Zakt Rashi. Darish le, he learns out from it, he learns it in a way, lashain, in a term, davar hasamui min ha'ayin, of something that's concealed from the eyes. So ba'asamecha really means in your warehouse, but he learns out in a way that it means from a term of samui, concealed. Ba'asamecha, in your concealed areas. Concealed from the eye. She'ein ayin she'elad display, something that the eye has no control over. She'nemar, like it says in the pasuk, ba'asamecha, in your hidden areas. Lashon gnazim, a term of hidden. Okay, and with that we continue on to Chelek Beis of our sugya, which really these could be two different sugyas. They don't have much to do with each other, but since the first sugya is very, 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 very easy, so we'll put them together. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, Ksafim, money. If someone gives money to his friend to watch, Ein lahem shmira ela bakarka. There's no place to watch it, only when you bury it in the earth. Okay? Now, Zakt Rava, that Umoidi Shmuel is Moida, the Be'erev Shabbos ben Hashmashas. If the mafkid gave the shomer money on Erev Shabbos, between Shkia and Seis, like Mamash Shabbos, right? And there's no time to bury it, okay? The Lo Yatrechu Rabbanan did not make him responsible, did not hassle him to bury it right now. He could wait till after Shabbos, and then he could bury it. And if he waited on Matzah Shabbos, Shiur l'mikbirinu, the amount of time that it takes to bury it, and he still didn't bury it on Matzah Shabbos, then v'loy kavrinu, and he didn't bury it, mechayev, then he's going, and something happened to it, then he's going to be chayev. And furthermore, the itzer v'merabanu, if the mafkid is a Talmud Chacham, is from the Rabbanon, and he is makpid, he is careful to make Havdalah on wine, and he might run out of wine, so he needs money for it, right? Savar, he holds, the shomer is going to think, Dilma, maybe, miboy lezuzi, he needs the money, la Havdalta, for Havdalah. So he's not going to bury it even for some time on Matzah Shabbos. So therefore, if he waits on Matzah Shabbos and he doesn't bury it and something happens to it, he's going to be potter because he thought that maybe the Balabas is going to need it for Havdalah. So that's why he didn't bury it right away. So all good. Zog the Gemara weiter. Getting back to where you should bury it, right? So Shmuel said that Ksafim ein lahem shmira el bakarka. Money only has the only place to hide money that shouldn't get stolen is in the earth when you bury it. And as Rabbi Gordon would say, Rabbi Josh Gordon, it should definitely not be in your sack drawer. All the thieves know to go look right away in your sack drawer. So it's definitely not a good place to hide it in your sack drawer. You should bury it in the ground. But nowadays, there are geshushai, people who tap the earth with metal spears. So the earth is no longer a good hiding spot. Now the best place to hide it is in the beams of the ceiling. But nowadays, even more so, furthermore, if nowadays where there are people who break open the ceiling and look for money over there, so that's no longer a good hiding spot. Now the only place to hide it is between the rows of bricks, right? Sometimes when you build a house, you build 2 rows of bricks. So it's a thicker wall, and it keeps out sound and weather, bad weather, heat, cold, etc., etc. So you take out 1 brick and put it in between the rows of bricks. That's the only good place to hide it. And Zakt Rava and Shmuel would be moidem that also if you hide it in the wall or in the corner, that would also be good. But nowadays that there are people who tap the walls to hear hollow places. So the only good place to hide it is in the wall, but in the tefach that's closest to the floor or to the tefach that's closest to the ceiling. That way, even when you're banging on the wall, it's more solid. It's closest to the earth or closest to the ceiling. It's more solid and it won't shake. You won't hear as easily that there's a hollow space over there. Let's learn this inside the Gemara. We're holding about the middle of the page. Amar Shmuel. Zag the Gemara. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, "Ksafim money ein lahem shmira ela bakarka." There's no shmira. There's no good there's no good guarding for it. Only in the earth when you bury it. Amar Rava says Rava umaydi Shmuel, and Shmuel is moida berev Shabbos ben Hashmashis on erev Shabbos between Shkia and Seis HaKachavim ben Hashmashis. If the mafkid gives the money, then lo yatrechu rabbanon. The rabbanon were not matriach. They're not hassle the shomer to bury it then. The isha. So if something happens over Shabbos, he's going to be pater. The isha l'matzi Shabbos, and if he waited for matzi Shabbos, if the shomer waited on matzi Shabbos. Sheer the amount of time to bury it, v'loy kavrinu, and he didn't bury it, michayev, then he's going to be chayev if something happens to it. V'it surva mirabananu, and if the mafkid is someone from the rabbanan, he's a talmid chacham, savar, he holds, the shomer is going to think, dilma, maybe mi boyle zuzi, he's going to need the money, the mafkid is going to need the money, lavdalta for avdallah. So therefore he's holding off and he's not burying it yet. So if anything happens, he's going to be pater. Now, back to what we're talking about, and now the shchichi g'shushoi, that there are people who tap the earth to see if there's any money there. Ein lahem shmira, there's no good guarding for them. Ela b'shmei kaira, only in the beams of the ceiling. And now the shchichi prumoi, that there are those who break ceilings, break roofs. Ein lahem shmira, there's no guarding for them. Ela beinei urvei, only between the rows of bricks. Omar Rava says on this. Umaydi Shmuel, and Shmuel will admit, the kaisel in a wall, if you hide it inside the wall, inami, or also bein hakranois in the corners, that those are also going to be just as good as in between the bricks. And now the shchichit fuchai, that there are those who tap the walls to see if to see if there are hollow spots. Ein lahem shmira, there's no good guarding for them. Ella, only betefach hasamuch lakarka, in the tefach that's closest to the floor, to the earth, or the tefach hasamuch l'shmei kaira, the tefach that's closest to the ceiling. Those places in the wall, the highest tefach and the lowest tefach, those are safe to guard money. Rashi, ein lahem shmira, closer to the top of the page. Ein lahem shmira chulu, there's no better guarding for them. The im loy shmara, that if the shomer did not guard it this way in the earth, v'nignevu, and they were stolen, pshiyahi, then it's going to be a negligence because you should have watched it better. You should have buried it in the earth. V'im tzurvim mirabananu, and if he is someone from the chachamim, hamafkid, who is hamafkid, the depositor is from the rabbanon, shehu charid al mitzvah havdalah, that he is strict about the mitzvah of havdalah, ala kais, on a cup of wine, not coffee, not tea, not beer, not tea, not any other kind of drink, specifically wine. Amar HaShomer, the shomer is going to say, Dilma, maybe mi boy lezuzi, he needs the money, lavdalta, for havdalah, to buy wine. Lahachi, and therefore, like kavrinu, he didn't bury it, and therefore, upater, and he's going to be pater. Gishushay, what does it mean, Gishushay? Megashashin, they tap bakarka on the earth, bashpudin shal barzel, with metal spears, lahakir, to identify, to be able to tell, makim, a place, shatachtav chala, that under it is hollow. So they tap and see if there's anything hollow, if there's any hollow spaces. They're able to feel, they're able to hear if there's any hollow spaces, and then they'll dig it up. And if they find a hollow space, they'll dig it up, see what's hidden over there. B'shamei kairo, what does it mean b'shamei kairo? Zakt Rashi, begag, in the roof, mitachtav, but under the roof, meaning from the inside of the roof, that means the ceiling. Frumoi, what does it mean frumoi? Zakt Rashi, shoivrei hatikra, those who break the ceiling. Beinei urvei, what does it mean beinei urvei? Zakt Rashi, bein shurei sabinyan, between the rows of the building, bakaisel, in the wall. Tfuchoi, what does it mean tfuchoi? Zakt Rashi, metapchim bakaisel, they tap the wall, lay that to know, im yesh sham cholol, if there's a hollow space over there. Oy batefach hasamuchulu, or in the tefach that's closest, etc. Zakt Rashi, v'chulu on bakaisel, the tefach that we're talking about, the lowest or highest tefach, is talking about in the wall. And with that we conclude Chelik Beis of our sugya, and now we move on to Chelik Gimel of our sugya. And the Gemara has a shaila. We learned in Maseches Pesachim about chametz on Pesach, that if you have chametz and you have a wall that collapses on the chametz, okay, chametz shenafla alav mapilas, that a wall that was falling down fell onto it, and now it's under the rubble. What's the din? Hareo kemavur. It's like it's destroyed. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Kol she'ein hakelev yochel lechapes acharav. As long as the dog isn't able to look after it, to dig it up and find it. And we learned in a brayso that explains this Mishnah. We learned in a brayso that says, V'tana, we learned in a brayso, Kama chafishes hakelev. How deep is the finding of a dog? How much is he going to be able to dig? Shloisha tvachim, 3 tvachim. That's how far the dog is going to be able to search. So if it's 3 tvachim deep, then it's like it's destroyed. Now, the Gemara asks a shaila, what would be the din over here when someone, hachamai, what would be the din over here when someone gives money to watch and it's buried in the rubble? How deep does it need to be? Does it also need shlosh tvachim? Mibayin on shlosh tvachim? Does it need shlosh tvachim or not? Does it need to be 3 tvachim or not? And for the Gemara, no, it does not need 3 tvachim. The whole reason why you need 3 tvachim over here is because of the smell. Mishum reicha, because of the smell. The dog might smell the chametz, and he might dig it up to eat it. And the whole idea on Pesach is avera of bal yira and bal matzah. You're not allowed to see your chametz. You're not allowed to find your chametz on Pesach. So we're worried that maybe if the dog smells it, he's going to dig it up, and then you're going to come to see it. But by us, the only concern that we have is that you shouldn't be able to see it. No one should be able to see it and take it. Right? That it should be concealed from the eyes. For that, you don't need 3 tefachim. For the smell, you need 3 tefachim. For that, you only need 1 tefach. And with that, we conclude our sugya. So let's learn this Gemara inside. Where are we holding? We're holding Tana, I believe. Oh, sorry. Amar le Rav Acha berei de Rav Yosef le Rav Ashi. A few lines down from the wide lines. Let's look inside and let's read it inside. Flag the Gemara. Amar le Rav Acha berei de Rav Yosef le Rav Ashi. Rav Acha, the son of Rav Yosef, said to Rav Ashi, Hasam Tanan. Over there we learned a Mishnah. Chametz shenafla alav mapoiles. Chametz that a wall fell down on it. That a collapsing wall fell on it. Mapoiles means a collapsing wall. Harehu kamavur. It's as if it is destroyed. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, as long as the dog cannot, yachal lechapes acharav, is not able to search after it. V'tana, and we learned the brayso to explain that. Kama chafishes kelev. How far is the digging of a dog? Gimel tfachim, 3 tfachim. So now comes a shaila. Now comes Rav Acha's shaila. Hacha mai, over here, what's the din? Mi ba'inan, do we need 3 tfachim or not? And for the Gemara, Amar Lei, so he said to him, Rav Ashi answered, Rav Acha berei Rav Yosef. He said, Hasam over there by chametz, mishum reicha, it's because of smell. Ba'inan gimel tfachim. Over there, we're going to need 3 tfachim. The whole concern is that the dog is going to smell it and dig it up. And then you're going to see it. So therefore, we need 3 tfachim. But a hacha over here, Why? What's the whole concern? Mishum kasuyim eino, because of being concealed from the eyes. Lo bayin and gimel tfachim. For that we don't need 3 tfachim. V'kama, and how much do you need? Amar Rafram mikisra. Rafram from Kisra said, tefach, all you need is a tefach. Rashi. Hareu kamavur. It is as if it's destroyed, if it's under the rubble. Ve'ein tzarich levaroi, and you don't need to destroy it anymore. The ein kan oid, because there's no more over here, bal yirah, the avera of seeing it. Hachamai, over here, what's the din? Le'inyan shmiras ksafim, over here, to the matter of guarding money. If it's under the rubble, what's the din? How deep does it need to be? Mishum reicha, over there, the concern is because of smell. Sha'akelev, that the dog, meriach, smells, v'choifes acharav, and he looks after it. V'harehu, moitziyoi, and he's going to find it, and take it out. V'nira, and then it's going to be seen, and then you're going to be over on Bal Yirah, that you're not allowed to see chametz. Mikisra, what does it mean? Mikisra, Shem Makim, it is the name of a place. And with that we conclude Sugya Lamed Vav. Hatzlach Rabo, see you in next shiur.